Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the SpartanCast. I'm your host, Christian de Guzman, and thank you all so much for joining me here on the Syracuse Spartans YouTube channel. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who watched and listened to last week's SpartanCast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I'd like to, first of all, thank all our guests from last week once again. Cortland head coach Joe Brown, Syracuse Spartans head coach Matt Maholsky, and Syracuse Spartan player Jackson Geisler. And we have three more great guests that will join us here on the SpartanCast to talk about how they have responded to the ongoing coronavirus situation. We'll end off with two Syracuse University professors, Dave Meluni and Dennis Kinsey. But first, we'll start off with a high school take on the coronavirus epidemic. We'll start with the opinions of West Genesee varsity head baseball coach Kevin Krause. He joins me now on the SpartanCast. Coach, thank you so much for joining me on the SpartanCast. First of all, we'd like to ask all our guests, how are you doing? Is your family okay? Are your friends okay?
Yep, everyone's doing great right now. We're all secluded from each other and everyone's healthy.
Yeah, no, it's a very difficult situation being self-quarantined over these past couple of weeks. But obviously, Kevin Krause joining us here on the SpartanCast, the head coach of the varsity program at West Genesee High School in Syracuse. And their season, like many of the other seasons in the upstate New York and in New York State, have been suspended by the New York State Public High School Sports Athlete Association. So it must be a very difficult situation to tell your players initially that the season is going to be suspended. How did you approach telling your team that baseball would not start on time?
Well, this year was the first year that we were going to go to, so I actually had to tell them that before we were even suspended. The district had decided that there weren't going to be any trips over spring break, so they were really disappointed with that because we've spent a lot of time fundraising and they were looking forward to our spring trip. And then so we actually still had preseason practice that day, and after that we were coming back the next week and it got suspended before we even got to start tryouts. And everyone kind of heard at the same time because they were canceling school and things like that. So everyone was really sad that the season wasn't going to start on time.
What was your message to those players when you initially started talking to them, say, hey, this is not going to happen like we wanted to on time this year?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just to make sure that you're staying safe and healthy. And we talk about things that we can control and things that we can't control. We have no control over this, and we just have to try to stay positive and stay active at home doing workouts, things like that. And hopefully we'll get an opportunity to play.
Yeah, like we said, the season is suspended and postponed, not officially canceled. So at least there's still some hope that you might be able to play. But unlike in college athletics, you've heard a lot about college athletics and seniors potentially even getting an extra season of eligibility in high school. That's not necessarily the case. And I'm pretty sure some of your seniors on your squad are feeling very anxious about their season potentially getting canceled and not getting another year of high school baseball. What is the general feeling been like around that group?
Well, we have a lot of seniors. We have a lot of returning players. We have a senior that's played, this will be his fourth year. We have a bunch that have played 3 years. So we have a very veteran team returning. It's probably going to be one of the strongest teams we've ever had. And I think they were really looking forward to, playing. We set up a really difficult schedule. So they're definitely sad about that. But they're also talking about, graduation and balls and proms. And, as a senior in high school, it's your last chance to go through with all of your friends. I'm sure they're missing their friends more than they're missing anything right now, seeing them on a daily basis. And we have to just try kind of keep that in perspective that, yes, baseball is a huge part of their lives, but so are, their friends in school and their teachers that they get to see at school that they're not seeing right now. So it's much bigger than just not being able to play baseball. It's, the friendships that they have and the relationships with the people around them.
So what have you told your team and the people who are trying out for your roster to do in the meantime while everyone is away from school right now?
Right. Well, I'm not telling them to do any baseball things because they're not supposed to be leaving their house and doing anything. If they have things at their house, that's fine. They can go through and I send them video clips of, for example, infielders doing different drills that they could do in their basement. Our former strength coach has sent me 3 different workouts that I send them every other day that they could be doing body weight at home. And I just actually, about 20 minutes ago, I saw a video of a kid watching an old game and getting his pre-step pitch routine down and watching the game on TV. And then there's a video of him going through his pre-pitch routine. So I sent that out to him and said, opening day would have been right around now. There's going to be a bunch of games on YouTube and MLB channel. And I know the Yes Network is always playing Yankee Classics. Get up, stand up like you're fielding, and on the pitch, go through your pre-pitch bounce routine to get ready for for defense. So there's many different things that they could be doing at home on their own. But they also have schoolwork to do and, other things on their mind.
Yeah, and you also still have some kids as well who are looking to be potentially getting recruited by colleges as well to play at the next level at collegiate baseball, and having the season suspended and even potentially canceled certainly puts a lack of tape out there for these colleges. And I know you have some kids who are looking to play at a very high collegiate level. So
yeah, luckily, most of the seniors know where they're going. They've been in contact with their coaches. The underclassmen, all of our guys now play on some type of travel team in the summer, or they go to the PBR showcases. So they're still getting their publicity, and they're getting out in front of coaches. And then I have a connection with many of the coaches in the local area that, schools that they may be looking at to potentially go and then hopefully be able to play at. So more so our seniors, I think they're going to be all right because they most of them have already figured out where they're going and been in contact with coaches. And then the underclassmen, hopefully we get back this season, but I would assume by summertime that those kids would still be able to be seen at different events.
Coach Kevin Krause joining us here on the SpartanCast. I'm wondering, Coach, if you've talked to any the coaches here in Section 3 about the coronavirus situation and how they've been handling it with their players as well, and what their response might have been.
Not so much with how they're dealing with their players, but I have been in contact with a few of them in Double A and Class AA, and just it's sad because it's going to be a really difficult year this year for the teams because our league is really difficult. We play each other 3 times and kind of beat each other's brains in, but they're always great games and a lot of competition, and hopefully we'll be able to get to that. I know we'll probably lose, our non-league games and just try to make up our league games. And I know that they've waived the 7-day rule, so we would be able to play on Sundays too to make up games. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I hope for our seniors and for their parents and the time and efforts they put in that they get an opportunity to play this year.
Yeah, and that's obviously still a situation that's up in the air right now. I know these kind of future predicting questions are kind of tough to answer right now, but what's your level of confidence that you would say that you'd be able to get some high school baseball in this season?
Well, I'm not nearly smart enough to understand what's going on TV, but I don't know. You hope for the best, and but again, the most important thing now is people being safe and distancing each other from each other. And if people don't think that it's safe enough to do that, then baseball is a huge part of all of our guys and our coaching staff and their parents' lives. But I think if you asked any of them if it could save someone in their family by everyone staying secluded in their own homes and not going out and doing those things, I think everyone would understand. It stinks, and there's nothing we can do about it. But so getting back to your question, because I've kind of dodged it, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I hope for the best, but again, I hope everyone is safe before I care to play a baseball game.
Yeah, obviously that is priority number 1. Just one final question for you, Coach. If we do get to see baseball and athletics resume to normal later in this school year, what's going to be your first message to the team when you finally get them back together as one in your first tryout or your first practice?
If we all got back together and got to play, it'd be a giant hug and be like, let's go get it. Let's go get it. Let's get better today. And, go out and have fun, because as everyone always says, you never know when your last day of playing is. We're living it right now. So if we have that opportunity to just go out there and leave everything out there for the guy next to you and just play as hard as you can and have fun.
All right. That's Coach Kevin Krause. Coach, thank you so much for joining us on the SpartanCast.
Thank you very much.
Before we continue, this week's SpartanCast is brought to you by Iota, coming soon to an iPhone and iPad near you. With its revolutionary new gameplay, Iota will keep you entertained with over 5 hours of challenging and addicting action. Download the self-proclaimed hardest game on iOS today. Click the link below to pre-order Iota for only 99 cents before the international release date on March 31st, or follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/iotathegame for limited time offers this weekend only. And once again, a very big thank you to West Genesee head baseball coach Kevin Krause for joining me on this week's edition of the SpartanCast. Well, we've heard from a couple of coaches in the past couple of weeks on how they've responded to the coronavirus situation. Now let's hear from a couple of Syracuse University professors to see how they have reacted to the ongoing COVID-19 epidemic. And we'll start with a former professor of mine, Dave Meluni, who works in Syracuse University Sport Management Department, and he joins me now on the SpartanCast. So, Professor, thank you so much for joining us. I'm still going to call you Professor, even though it's been a while it's been a while since I've been in your class. First of all, how are you doing? Are you okay? Is your family and friends okay? Everyone healthy?
Yeah, everybody is healthy. Actually, our little puppy had a little bit of a fever the last few days, but he's okay. I don't think that has anything to do with what's going on. But no, everybody's healthy. 14-year-old, 11-year-old, both at home. I'm lucky that our niece is a teacher and an aspiring teacher, and she's been holding the fort down. So we've been pretty lucky in that aspect.
Oh, so you don't have to do too much of the homeschooling issues that we've seen on Twitter.
I'm not doing any of that. I have my own over 100 students at SU, which is pretty neat. And where we stand in the situation we're in digitally, but no, I don't have to do any of that fifth grade math. So
it must be a little bit tougher transitioning from talking about sports management to then teaching your kids arithmetic problems that you must have forgotten years ago.
Yeah, the neat part is Nicholas, our 11-year-old, just turned 11. He's doing a project on Jackie Robinson, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
So I was pretty proud of him, and to embrace that and learn everything, how Jackie had overcome the color barrier and really from the standpoint of Major League Baseball, and just watching 42 again and reading through some of the articles that he was reading, it was pretty neat. We just don't realize what Jackie Robinson went through.
Yeah, and certainly half the time now that everyone is staying at home and making sure that we are practicing safe social distancing. And I want to get your perspective again, like you said, teaching over 100 kids at Syracuse. I saw your tweet a couple of weeks ago that you had to drastically change your syllabus about how you're planning to teach the rest of the semester. What exactly was the initial response that you got from Syracuse University about how you would proceed with the semester after everything started to shut down?
Yeah, I give Syracuse and our IT department a ton of credit. We're very lucky that we utilize Blackboard as a platform, and Blackboard has a built-in tool very similar to Zoom, what we're using today. And I have now done a week's worth of courses for my principles of sales, which each has about 40 to 42 students in it. And I asked them at the end, I asked them today about a half an hour ago, what did you think? And they said it was smooth, right? So SU really prepared us, and I give them kudos. We have a support staff at any point that we need to reach out to, we can. But the Blackboard Ultra has been huge. The groups, very much when you were in that class, they will utilize Zoom and Google Hangout. And then the Blackboard Collaborative Ultra is the system that we use. But I'm able to show videos. I showed a pretty neat video today from Budweiser, if anybody gets a chance to see it, on how they're taking their activation funds in sports and sponsorship and really focused on the Red Cross, right, and the blood donation that we're going to see actually go down because of the social distancing. So, they have an avenue because they are Budweiser, but they're really focused not on their product, but how do they help the world and us get over this. So, but yeah, from our standpoint, use a program called Poll Everywhere, where the students can go in and they can text and it comes up on a word cloud. So you know me, Christian, right? I'm always trying new things. But this first week has been pretty smooth, very smooth. And I credit SU for giving me the tools to do that. So.
Has it been easier or harder for you to maybe teach your students or communicate with your students now that we've moved to a sort of digital age of school teaching?
Yeah, and I'm kind of chuckling because I didn't realize how much I talk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's you don't realize, and the other part too is yesterday, you're trying to exercise still, right? So like I got home and I was home and I said to my wife, normally when I teach, me, I walk, right?
Yes.
So I'm walking back and forth. And so I was like, I got to go out for 3 or 4 miles right now because I got to get these steps in and I got to build up a little bit of a sweat. And, but yeah, so from the teaching side of things, it's been a little bit different. I realized that I talk more, but I also realized that the engagement via a chat seems to be more, right? So when I'm in the classroom, there may be 6 to 8 to 10 students out of 40 that are actively always involved in a discussion, even though others will chime in. But when you have a chat, I feel like more and more students were in that chat than a normal classroom day. And I don't know why, but that was reassuring that they were all paying attention. Now I said to them, stay off the video. I actually pulled off the video because it's no different than if I put the lecture up on the slide. I want them to focus on what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, so how interesting is that class participation type of engaging with your students during classes? I mean, like you said, chatting is a very interesting way to type in chat, but even like what we're doing with Zoom, sometimes you have students who can raise their hand virtually and say, okay, I have a question for you, professor, and then you can see them. How has that affected how you've taught?
Yeah, so I've taken the approach of one, I'm going to do it live, right?
Yeah.
There shouldn't be anything else that you should be doing, right? If this was March 25th and you were on campus, you'd be going to class, hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
So if you're home, I will tell you this, they don't want to be home, right? I'm serious. Like these students want to be on campus. They want to be engaged. They want to be with their friends. It's not a knock to their parents. They're right. I mean, you're socially distancing. So from the standpoint of, keeping them engaged and what we're doing digitally, I've just noticed the interaction is pretty good. Now I might not be able to see them. And again, they're really good and professional on the chat. Every once in a while, I might say something and somebody might make a comment and somebody makes a comment and then somebody makes a comment towards them. But they're really good and I can see that. And it actually kept the flow of the class going. And in both classes are an hour and 20 minutes. And today, to be honest with you, I went right up to the hour and 20 minutes where a lot of times in the classroom, sometimes I don't. And I don't know. There's been a really good flow to it. And they're telling me that they're understanding the concepts of what we're going over from a sales standpoint. Today, we talked about sales objections and sales responses and things like that. So.
And we have Professor Dave Meluni joining us here on the SpartanCast in many different roles in his life. One of those being a official in the NYCBL, or the league that the Spartans are in here in the New York Collegiate Baseball League. I want to get your take on sort of the response the league has had. Obviously, we had Commissioner Joe Brown on last week on the SpartanCast. He talked about a little bit about how the league is approaching the situation. I'm kind of curious to hear how he reacted and responded to maybe some of the first initial conference calls that he had with you and the other league officials about dealing with the situation.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. As I keep saying, right, we're in uncharted territory, right? There is not a manual for this, Christian. So one of the first things when I was, in class or students are saying, hey, did you hear about this league? Or, some of the soccer leagues overseas. And, my close family, we have very close family that's in Italy right now. right? So they're in a small town that's outside of Rome, and so everything that's going on is impacting us personally too, right? So nobody has the virus, but just the way the way that they handle things and how they can't go outside and so on and so forth. So when all this was going down, I picked up the phone, probably sent a text to our president and commissioner and said, we probably need to have a chat, right?
Yeah.
And the one immediately, right, to the advisory board, everybody emailed back or text back and said, let's get on a call, right? And one of the things for me during this time is leaders lead, right? So and we'll talk about my baseball stuff, but
Yeah.
leaders need to lead, right? We can't just be looking, what is this league doing? What's this league doing? We're completely different, right? The NCAA comes down. The NCAA says from all levels, spring championships are canceled. We had the SEC. We had some of the other conferences that said, hey, we're still not canceled yet. So from our side, Joe, Brian, Dennis, Steve, Bill just kind of said, leaders lead, let's lead, right? So we set up a call with the rest of the teams. Then we're following through proactively every week. We have another call coming up this week. Joe has actually had conversations with other leagues. Joe has also had conversations with Major League Baseball, right? Because that's a big piece of this. We are part of the National Alliance of Collegiate Summer Baseball, right? So that's important. Even had discussions with Rawlings. And then from my standpoint, we got to keep the league relative right now, right? Yeah. There are college athletes, baseball players, Division I, II, III. So don't just say NCAA. Our league is Division I, NCAA, Division II, III, NAIA, and junior college baseball. They have divisions as well, right? So the NAIA came out last week, said, hey, we're done. We're suspending the season. So from our standpoint, how does the NYCBL still stay relevant where our hopes are that we begin June 1st with the first game, right? Do we have contingency plans in place? Yeah, we do, right? That's why I keep saying leaders lead, right? Looking at what other places are doing, following Major League Baseball, not necessarily from that schedule, but what are they doing? Obviously, Christian, Major League Baseball is going to need time for spring training, right?
Yeah.
We're going to need some time where pitchers aren't pitching right now, right? Hitters are hitting out of a tee in their basement. So we're hoping everything gets back to normal and then it's status quo. Could there be some, different things that we need to do? If the schedule gets limited, we'll handle all that stuff. But all of that's on the table, and we're being transparent with the teams in our leagues.
We talked a little bit about Coach as well, about with Coach Joe Brown, I should say, last week about various topics like going forward if some teams can't play, what the next steps are of maybe even suspending the league if there's more suspensions that need to be taken place. Has there been talks about maybe pushing back the league maybe a week or two or even three, to the start date of the league past the June 1st date that was originally set out?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's anything concrete. I think that we have to look at what are options, right? Obviously, Christian, there has to be a date, right? That at a certain point, you can't play a 2-week season, right? So we also have to be conscious of college students going back. Now, the one thing is because of the leap year, and I'll give you an example. Syracuse University, I traditionally start class August 24th. This year, I don't start class till August 31st. Okay. So we actually kind of have a built-in a built-in extra week, right? I wish we had a built-in extra
that'd be very
right?
nice.
Yeah, that'd be very nice. But we have that built-in extra week. So with that being said, yeah, I mean, the league can't go to August 15th or 20th or something like that. The athletes got to get back to their campuses, right? But we do have that extra week because of the calendar that even if we are kind of pushed back, and then I believe it's 17 or 18 off days. Joe might have mentioned this, but I think it's 17 or 18 off days that we can consolidate that and we can probably fit everything. if the calendar and what's going on with COVID-19 subsides and we're back to, less social distancing and things like that. But,
Yeah, and you mentioned also the extra year, how we would all love an extra year. I'm pretty sure your kids as well would love an extra year and maybe another year in youth baseball. I want to get to that point now of your life where you're also the head coach of your kids' baseball teams in Camillus.
Yeah.
How have they been affected by the COVID-19 situation?
So, there was a funny meme or something out there that said, like, being a youth baseball coach is a 24/7 job. I can tell you right now, the range of emotions that I have to manage between parents and players is been the toughest that I've ever had to, right? So my son is 11 years old. Our oldest son, I coached in Cooperstown. We got to go to Cooperstown a few years back, right? So he's 14, so 2 seasons ago. And then previous to that, I coached a team without him on it. And then last year, I handed the team off to another gentleman. And then there's really, it's sort of my baby moving forward, right? So my son's 11. We currently have 2 teams, okay? Both are going to Cooperstown Dreams Park. We were supposed to go to Cooperstown Dreams Park. We had 15 out of 24 athletes, players, that were going to go to Cooperstown Dreams Park. Friday night, 9:30 p.m., we get wasn't even an email. We get the announcement via Facebook that Cooperstown Dreams Park is canceled 13 weeks, 104 teams, right?
Wow.
How do I tell 15, 12-year-olds that you don't get this dream of playing in this tournament? The group at Dreams Park, Jeff, they're amazing, right? I get it, okay? They came out, they've talked with the New York State government. They're opening up all their bunks, right? If we get into a situation, they need them for hospital sort of beds, right? They're offering that. At the same time, Christian, I get it. Dreams Park starts June 6th. The teams from Georgia, from California, from Florida, from Texas, okay? Right now, they can get refunds on their airline tickets. And at the same time, all these parents that are coming to town, they're staying in bed and breakfasts, in hotels. They can get that money back. I mean, Christian, we're not talking $1,000. Yeah. We're talking that my team just to go is $15,000, not counting what the parents have to pay to stay off site, okay? How has this changed? Dramatically. We were going to go to Sports Force in Cleveland, Ohio. We were going to go to Cherry Hill. Jeff and his group down at Cherry Hill, we were going to play them. We were going to go to a Phillies game. We've canceled all of our out of town, okay? So we're going to stay local, Hopkins Road, Legends Field. We have one small, and if anybody has any connections, hook me up. We have one small possibility with Cooperstown All-Star Village. Martin and Hunter there have been amazing. We're trying to get in the same week. They only have 60 teams. The way they're approaching it, and I think it's a little bit different than Dreams Park. So the other thing people don't understand is that these tournaments, they're run like a camp. So they're with New York State, they're registered as a summer camp, no different than Lord's Camp, right? So this is like a summer camp. So they have to fall under that jurisdiction of the state. But the difference with Cooperstown All-Star Village is they almost have half the teams, right? Yeah. So they also have the opportunity or the flexibility that you could play there and you don't have to stay on site. So we're in the midst of that right now. I was on the phone with Martin. I've talked to Hunter. Really hoping if anybody hears this and has an in for us, but I'm really hoping. And again, I could sit here and be selfish because I have an 11-year-old, and he luckily got to go last year with a different team at 10. So he was going to go at 10, 11, and 12. And I could just say, hey, everybody get their money back. But Christian, that's the other side. We have to be so sensitive, right? You have families that have a member that's on furlough, right? You have family members that are working in the medical industry. One of our moms is working 15-hour days, right? We can't practice right now. So it's really it's not even frustrating. It's almost, it's sad, but we got to have encouragement there, right? Something's going to shake. This is going to get better. We're going to get back on the baseball field. We don't want anybody getting sick. But I really hope for 15 of those young men that we can do something. And anybody that knows me, I'm going to try my damnedest to get us to play somewhere.
What is the discussion like with those kids to say, okay, your health and safety comes first and then baseball comes second? Because I know a lot of them want to just go outside and play baseball.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I think like our two boys, we kind of had to explain, right? They're 11 and 14. So, I mean, think when you were 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably more our 11-year-old than our 14-year-old, but they kind of think they're indestructible, right? So they don't really know, like, oh, I'm not going to school. It's like a snow day. And then I got to get on Google Classroom. And that's the other thing, right? We're talking about me being a professor with 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And the class I teach tomorrow is 20, 21-year-olds. These teachers at the elementary schools, they had no idea. They were not ready, right? I mean, they weren't ready for this. They have adjusted unbelievably, right? They are doing amazing things. I saw one of the teachers today was going to do like a field trip outside in her backyard with like the plants and the flower. It was not really flowers, but like the squirrels. Or, I heard the other day that a professor at another school district, he went out to Beaver Lake and he did a virtual classroom. Like, this is amazing stuff. But to get back to our kids, it's just like, you got to try to be positive in a way that this is going to get back to normal. Now, for me, I got a basement that's pretty big, and our oldest, he's on a workout plan, right? He's a pitcher. It's not Todd Marinovich's dad here, but he's on a workout plan. He's doing his sort of drive line. He's hitting off a tee. Our 11-year-old, the other day, we were able to get out in the front yard. I can't really hit fly balls to the 14-year-old because I only got a small area sandwiched in between the houses. But the 11-year-old, we took, 200 fly balls. We played catch. Tonight he'll hit in the basement off the tee. But they're also shooting hockey pucks, shooting hoops in the basement. We got a little hoop. So, again, it's just keeping them active, not as much Fortnite. That's the one thing. But you got to let them be kids. They're playing MLB The Show, talking smack with their friends. All that stuff's good too.
And one final question for you, Professor. What is that initial discussion like with your children as a father? Say, okay, this is what's happening in the world right now, and this is what we're going to do to keep ourselves and our family and your friends safe.
Yeah, I think they probably have heard me a million times. Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands? I'm also sort of approaching it from the standpoint of, I hope almost to the fact, Christian, is you don't want to create this panic, right? You can't do that, right? You can't create this panic. I mean, we're lucky. We live in a little neighborhood. There's a lot of other kids. So they don't see it, from the standpoint, they're not going to the grocery store. They might be chatting with their friends, but also just saying, count your blessings, right? So, every night, my wife said to me the other day, she's like, we've eaten at the dinner table 7 nights in a row, right? So like Coach Brown, he kind of uses this example as it's almost like this reset, right? So everybody's got this reset. And I'm one of those folks that kind of believes, things kind of at times happen for a reason, but it's also a reset. It's a reset for us. But at the same time, what is when we go out and stop touching everything? Or Christian, this is going to change a lot of things. I think from the sports standpoint, my class talked about it today. I had a young man from China, and he said, what do you think is going to happen with sports with fans? And I said, I think this might not get back to normal from a fan standpoint. Hopefully everything subsides and let's just say July and everything, like we've seen what's going on in China, but we obviously have to social distance. The quicker we do that, the quicker that we're back on track. But I don't think we're going to see this to the NFL season, right? And if not, we're not going to see it to the NBA season. because MLB, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle because families are still going to have a little bit of a concern to go to a stadium, right? Or once it's clear, we're going to go to a stadium, but maybe we're going to buy seats on the lawn. Maybe we're going to, so it's going to be interesting for teams to adapt to this. But back to your initial question, you just can't create a panic, but you have to be serious about it too.
Professor, thank you so much for joining me on the SpartanCast. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Christian.
Before we continue, this week's SpartanCast is brought to you by Iota, coming soon to an iPhone and iPad near you. With its revolutionary new gameplay, Iota will keep you entertained with over 5 hours of challenging and addicting action. Download the self-proclaimed hardest game on iOS today. Click the link below to pre-order Iota for only 99 cents before the international release date on March 31st, or follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/iotathegame for limited time offers this weekend only. And once again, a very big thank you to Professor Meluni for joining me on this week's edition of the SpartanCast. Well, we've heard from one Syracuse University professor on how he's reacted to the COVID-19 situation. Now let's get another Syracuse University professor's take, who also has some ties to the Syracuse Spartans youth baseball program here in Syracuse. That's Dennis Kinsey, and now he joins me on this week's edition of the SpartanCast. Professor, thank you so much for joining us here on the SpartanCast. First of all, we'd like to ask our guests this: how are you? How are you doing? Is your family and friends okay? Is everyone healthy?
Yeah, Christian, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm healthy, and my family's healthy. In fact, all my family are we're all in the same house, like most families. So my son Wyatt is home from RIT, and my daughter Penelope is home from SU. She goes to Syracuse University. My 2 other children are not going to school. They go to Bishop Grimes here in Syracuse, and my wife is home as well. So we're all working or going to school from home. Our bandwidth is a little sketchy sometimes.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we're feeling that at my house as well.
Absolutely. And then all my friends, at least, I'm in contact with a lot of people, and so far, thank goodness, everyone's still healthy.
Well, great. That's very good to hear. Of course, Professor Kinsey is a director of public diplomacy at Newhouse, director of the doctoral program, professor of public relations at Syracuse as well. Did I get all that right, first of all?
You did.
Great. Well, you wear a lot of hats at Syracuse University, and we talked to Professor Meluni a little bit ago about the Syracuse response. I want to take your take as well. I mean, Syracuse came out very quickly and about saying how they would respond to the coronavirus situation. How has that affected how you run your programs and how you teach your classes?
Yeah, I was very happy with Syracuse's response. I think it does show that SU really cares about the health and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff. And I was a little disappointed when they said, stop coming in to work. But I must admit, I kind of like being at home and doing this commuting via the internet. Essentially, what we've done at the Newhouse School is we've moved every single one of our classes online. And we anticipated this a little bit because about 2 weeks ago, we started going through training for online teaching using various platforms. And one of our, the dean of our IT department, he's been working, it feels like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, getting us all prepared, getting us ready, packing up our desktops or our laptops and putting the right software on it that we need to come home and use it. And he's available. I tell you, I've had to email him or call him a couple times already for little minor things, and he gets right back to me. And he's really keeping, the faculty working, the staff working, and the students so far seem to be, going with the flow here. We've had classes online, and they're adapting well, and they, I think everyone understands this is a very tough and unusual time, and we're I think people are stepping up to the plate here, since we're talking a little bit about baseball too. And, we're making the best out of a terrible situation.
How has your teaching style, I would say, changed due to, of course, everyone being online? Of course, it's very different being in a classroom or a lecture hall than talking to the computer like we are doing right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. For me, I guess it's different for everyone, but I don't feel that I can really gauge if students are getting it or not online.
Yeah.
In the classroom, you can see their faces, you can see their body language very easily. You can tell if they're getting what you're saying or not. I have a difficult time when I'm looking at these little postage size pictures of them on my screen. But I always encourage them to either speak up then or contact me, after class if they're not getting something. But I just feel a little inadequate in terms of gauging, if it's working or not for them.
And obviously, that must make class participation a little bit tough as well. How do you engage with your students to make sure, like you said, that they're getting the material that you are teaching?
It is difficult. Unfortunately for my students, what I've initiated is for them to get any kind of classroom participation credit, they have to speak, they have to talk up,
Yeah.
they have to respond to every presentation. So I'm kind of forcing that issue on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one way to make sure that they get the material that they are learning. And I'm curious because of course, you are director of a multitude of programs, like we mentioned earlier in the Syracuse Newhouse programs. How has your relationship with your students changed in terms of talking with them about their future careers and what they need to do in terms of completing other schoolworks as well, in terms of their programs?
Yeah, I think, in one sense, it's too young into the process here. Everyone's still just concerned about making sure the technology works for them,
Yeah.
so that they can be on. I'm sure we'll start having those discussions next week or so, depending on how long this continues. But right now, everyone's kind of, focusing on making sure that they're available, making sure that they show up for class, even though students are now all over the country. And, I just yesterday, my class, we had a student in Alabama and a student in California. So they're all spread out now. And most of them, frankly, I think they're less concerned with school right now and more concerned with staying safe, staying healthy, making sure their family and friends are all healthy. But saying that, they still show up for class and they still do the work.
Well, at least that's a good sign. You're making sure that no one's cutting class on you.
Exactly.
Professor Dennis Kinsey joining us here on the SpartanCast. I want to shift a little bit over to the second topic that we kind of been talking about on the rest of the SpartanCast, and that's the kind of the youth side responding to the coronavirus. You mentioned you have children of a variety of ages, but I want to focus on how you've been talking to your youngest children about the coronavirus. It must be a very difficult topic to kind of tell children how to react in these times. What have you been telling him?
Yeah, they're handling it pretty well. I think what's most difficult for them is they can't go out and play with their friends.
Yeah.
For a while it was hard to understand, or they didn't get the importance of kind of the social distance aspect. Because, they want to run to the backyard and play basketball. And I think, as the governor said today, you can't play basketball staying 6 feet apart from each other. He said, you can, but you're not a very good basketball player if you do that. And, so it was hard for them to understand that they can't go hang out with their friends. Like my daughter's friend, it's her birthday today, so she can't go, they can't have a party. She can't go with them. But as far as understanding and I don't think they're frightened either. So, I think, we talk to them about, the social distance, staying safe. We're going to stay at home. We're going to, we'll go out and walk around the neighborhood, but we've got to fight this thing now to reduce the threat. And I think the news coming from China with the reduction is a really good sign. I think it's very encouraging. I think it shows that this thing isn't going to last forever, that we can split.
And as we mentioned, your son is part of the Syracuse youth baseball program, and it must be very tough. Also, of course, he can't play basketball, but he can't even play baseball. This is prime baseball season right now. Where we are right now, we've had a few days of good weather earlier in the week. Maybe not so much now, but earlier in the week, it was certainly looking like a prime time to go outside and play some catch, or even go, you know, have some practice with his friends in the program. How tough is that to say, okay, we kind of pump the brakes and say, hey, baseball is secondary right now?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Although you were right. Actually, we were outside just yesterday with playing catch, throwing the ball around a little bit, and he's been able to do a little bit of workout with the Spartans youth before this happened. Some winter workouts. So twice a week they would meet indoors and do some BP, has some batting practice, and fortunately. About a week and a half ago, before everything had to shut down, Kevin Newby, who the Noob is the batting coach for the college Spartans, he was in town. So my son Bruno, he got to work with Noob a little bit to get a few lessons on batting. And as you know, Noob is like a miracle worker. This guy knows his stuff. I mean. So he's been around it, and it's only just within the last week or so that it's like no more. So him and I get to go outside and catch a little bit, and we set up a little thing in the garage where I've got these little soft balls that you can throw. They're like those stress balls, and so he's hitting that a little bit, so he can get some hacks in at least, but. Yeah, it's not the same. We're not going to be with the team, and hopefully the season. There's still some season left, because that would be terrible not to have any baseball at all.
Yeah, and what if you talked to him about that initially? Because obviously some baseball has had to be canceled already. Some sports have had to be canceled that he's probably already involved in terms of other sports are canceled. How have you talked to him about handling that? Hey, right now sports, like we said, sports is not the biggest thing that we can do right now.
Yeah, in fact, that's really pertinent to him right now, because he plays for his high school, Bishop Grimes, and this was they were gonna go to Florida to the ESPN kind of facilities for spring break, or next week or something. They were going to go down, and that was canceled, several weeks ago. So those sports have all been canceled at his high school, and his sister as well, who plays a lot of sports. That's all been canceled. And but I gotta tell you, I don't. Maybe I'm just lucky because they're really responding well. They're not moping around. They're not complaining. They kind of get it. That, okay, we all have to pitch in here, and everyone's kind of missing things and sacrificing. So we'll do the best we can out in the backyard, but we'll just just have to wait and see like everyone else.
Final, what is your kind of response been in terms of all these high schools saying, okay, we're suspending right now, but we'll eventually get back? What do you think is that necessarily right, saying, okay, let's suspend right now, postpone, and then maybe in April, like that's what the New York Public High School Athlete Association said, that okay, April might be the best tentative date. Should they essentially go ahead and cancel like the NCAA has the whole entire spring schedule, or is it okay to say, okay, let's get back at it in April?
I could see I can see both sides of that issue, but I think it's okay to at least offer some hope, especially for the kids. And we see things changing daily, certainly sometimes hourly with this, but so it may eventually end up canceling the entire season. But I mean, having a little bit of hope, I think, is okay. Gives you something to kind of look forward to.
All right, well, Professor, thank you so much for joining us on the SpartanCast.
Thank you, Christian. I love your podcast. I really enjoy listening to it. You're a fantastic interviewer. I want to compliment you on what you're doing here. And I know it takes a lot of work and effort, but I'll be listening.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we continue, this week's SpartanCast is brought to you by Iota, coming soon to an iPhone and iPad near you. With its revolutionary new gameplay, Iota will keep you entertained with over 5 hours of challenging and addicting action. Download the self-proclaimed hardest game on iOS today. Click the link below to pre-order Iota for only 99 cents before the international release date on March 31st, or follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/iotathegame for limited time offers this weekend only. And once again, a very big thank you to all 3 of our guests who joined me on this week's edition of the SpartanCast. That is West Genesee varsity head baseball coach Kevin Krause and Syracuse University professors Dave Meluni and Dennis Kinsey. And a big thank you to everyone who watched today's edition of the SpartanCast here on the Syracuse Spartans YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment on the video if you did enjoy this week's edition of the SpartanCast, and consider subscribing to the Syracuse Spartans YouTube channel as well to get notified when we upload a new video at any time. Also follow the Spartans on Twitter at NYCBL_Spartans and on Instagram at Syracuse Spartans. We'll upload another SpartanCast next week on Friday at noon. But until then, I'm Christian de Guzman. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the SpartanCast. Tune in to next week's edition of the SpartanCast, where we'll be joined by Cortland Crush head coach / GM and NYCBL president Bill McConnell as he talks about the Crush's Sleeves Up blood drive. We'll also be joined by special guest Darren Fenster, the minor league outfield and base running coordinator for the Boston Red Sox and the founder and CEO of Coaching Your Kids LLC.